allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. In November, I am accustomed to speaking a few minutes about what I'm grateful for, and I've got to tell you right now, I'm truly, truly grateful for the collective Syosset School District and our community, because I know we're seeing an uptick in numbers out there, but the plans that my fellow board members and the school district have put into place have really allowed us to say that we have no close contacts within our schools. And the collective, because our staff in its entirety is so on board with adhering to those safety precautions, and we've put in place every precaution that we've been able to and that is available. So I'm truly grateful for that. I'm hoping that everybody out in the community who has COVID has a speedy recovery, and I'm grateful for all of us who are in good health right now. We're going to be taking one of our business items to the front of our meeting, because it is the appointment of an assistant superintendent for human resources. It's a big job, and so we'd like to do that before we continue with the rest of our meeting. So may I please have a motion for the appointment of assistant superintendent for human resources? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Mr. Gershon. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Edward Escobar. Please stand so everybody can see you. You know, your experience and your reputation of knowledge preceded you, obviously, but your enthusiasm for the work itself, as well as your enthusiasm for coming into our family, is what struck me the most. And I'm so happy that you're here. And so we'd like to welcome you officially, and we hope that you enjoy your stay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate all your time, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you and keep moving Syosset forward, making it an even better school district than it is right now.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Okay, we will start with the approval of the minutes of October 8th, 2020. May I have a motion, please? Susan Falkov, seconded by Mr. Ulrich. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Approval of the minutes of meeting October 19, 2020. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Mr. Feldman. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Dr. Rufo, please give us the treasurer's report.
As indicated in the treasurer's report, cash on hand for the month end September 30th, 2020 was $108,716,062.02. It also shows that bank balances for all cash accounts were reconciled to book balances and were collateralized in accordance with the district's banking agreement and investment policy.
You have to shut your microphone off.
Do it again? Okay. As indicated in the Treasurer's Report, the cash on hand for the month end September 30th, 2020 was $108,716,062.02. It shows that all cash accounts were reconciled to the book balances and were collateralized in accordance with the district's banking agreements and investment policy.
Thank you, Dr. Rufo. Are there any questions for Dr. Rufo? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report? Tom Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Chang. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Dr. Rogers, please give us your superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, and I'll add my thanks to that of Ms. Frankel for all of the hard work that everyone has put in. Today is day 47, and yes, we are counting. We're obviously incredibly pleased that we're able to be back in person with students, and we're working hard to preserve as much of that time together as we possibly can. On Wednesday of this week at 7 o'clock, we're going to have what I'm calling a family conversation. And when I was a kid and I was 8 years old, we lived in Syracuse. And my dad walked into the house one night after work and told everybody in the house that we needed to assemble in the kitchen and have a family conversation. And as an 8-year-old, I had no idea what that meant, but I found out it means we're moving to Binghamton. So I think we have to have a family conversation because we're definitely seeing things change around us. I do think that it's within our control and our ability to make things better, but we're all going to have to link arms, figuratively only, and find a way to work together as a community. So we'll talk a little bit about the contact tracing process because we get a lot of questions about how that works. We'll talk a little bit about how we work with the Department of Health. We'll have our school physician on hand, and what we've done is compiled a lot of the questions that have come into us, and he'll have the opportunity to answer those for the public in his own voice, but he obviously advises us on a very frequent basis. And we'll go through some of the statistics that we're following closely, and I know there have been a number of questions around the metrics that New York City is using and that the state is using. I'll allude to that a little bit later in my presentation tonight. And we'll end on an upbeat note. And that's the only tease that I'll give you, but there will be something a little special at the end of that family conversation. Unlike, there was nothing special at the end of my 8-year-old family conversation. I realized I was going to have to lose all my friends. So that was no good. If I can, for Quan, if I could have the slides, please, that'd be great. Oh, why don't we do the Student Council report first, especially since you have it queued up. So every month, a different school reports to the Board of Education. This month, it's H.B. Thompson's turn. We have Salem Pryor and Hallie Fishbein, who are 8th grade representatives.
Members of the Board of Education, members of administration. We are happy to present to you this evening. My name is Salem Pryor.
And my name is Hallie Fishbein, and we are 8th grade students at Harry B. Thompson Middle School. Tonight we are here to tell you about all the great things the students and staff at HBT have been doing since school started back in September.
Obviously, this year has looked a little different, but the staff and students of HBT are striving to make the 2020-2021 school year a great one. Our Student Activity Club brought back our Fun Fridays, where everyone dresses in theme. We have Flannel Friday, Sports Day, Sassy Pride Day, and Pajama Day.
Our clubs are up and running, and the students are so excited. We have 2 new clubs at HBT this year, Sign Language and Thompson Mosaic. Some of our clubs are meeting virtually, like the Cooking Club and the Book Club, and others are meeting at school. In true HBT style, we celebrated Halloween with so many students and staff dressing up.
Student Activity Club is once again sponsoring the food drive. We are partnering with Long Island Cares to help Long Islanders in need. Students will make donations to their advisors. We are excited for some fun activities that we will be having in the near future. Student Activity Club will be hosting a holiday movie before the December break. Students will go on a movie of their choice during advisory. An annual favorite around HBT has always been Spirit Week. This year, we are hoping to try it out virtually.
And we will be having a big announcement soon about our spring musical. HBT is also looking forward to our Multicultural Week. It will look different this year, but it will still be great. We are so happy to be back in school and are looking forward to the great activities HBT always has for us. Thank you and have a great night.
So thank you to Salem and Hallie, and we will have them back again. There was a problem with the video, so I'm sorry that we didn't get to see them, but we'll arrange another opportunity for them to give you an update on what they're up to, so you do have the opportunity to see them. I'm also very proud to announce that we have a number of NYSSMA All-State and All-National musicians, and I believe we have a little recognition for them as well.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Members of the Board of Education, it is my great honor to be able to introduce to you this evening 29 students who have been named NYSSMA All-State musicians. 29 is a very large number of All-State musicians to come from any one high school. And I'm often asked, how is it that Syosset has so many All-State musicians year after year? And the answer is twofold and simple. One, we have an administration and a Board of Education that is enormously supportive of its music program and really understands the value of music in the lives of its students. And two, we are part of a community that would accept nothing less than excellence in the performing arts. So with the support from the community, the administration, and the Board of Education, we have a wonderful formula for continued excellence. At this time, allow me to please introduce to you some really outstanding students.
Autumn Avery is an alto selected to this year's All-State Treble Chorus. Elizabeth Byrne is a soprano, also selected to this year's All-State Treble Chorus. Stella Chen plays the violin and will be in the All-State Symphony Orchestra. Evan Chang also plays the violin and will also be in the All-State Symphony Orchestra this year. Joseph Chung is a bass who will be singing with the All-State Mixed Chorus. Alexandra Cleary is an alto who will be singing with the All-State Treble Chorus. Alexandra Donak is a soprano selected to this year's All-State Mixed Chorus. Esther Hahn plays the flute and the piccolo and will be doing so in the All-State Symphony Orchestra. Alexander Hahn, a violinist, will be a member of this year's All-State Symphony Orchestra. Emily M. plays the oboe and will be doing so in the All-State Wind Ensemble. Sophia Jaffe plays both the E-flat and B-flat clarinets and was selected to this year's All-State Symphonic Band. Alex G., a cellist, was selected as an All-State alternate. Sejal Joshi is a soprano selected to this year's All-State Mixed Chorus. Kayla Kessler was selected as the bass player in this year's All-State Instrumental Jazz Ensemble. Michael Kopach is a bass who will be singing with the All-State Mixed Chorus and was also selected as an alternate to the NAFME All-National Chorus. Stella Koo, a cellist, will be playing with the All-State Symphony Orchestra. Zach Levine will be playing drum set with this year's All-State Instrumental Jazz Ensemble. Eric Liang, a violist, was selected to the All-State String Orchestra. Bori Liu, a double bass player, was also selected to the All-State String Orchestra. Jade Marichik is an alto who will be singing with this year's All-State Treble Chorus. Grace Munn, a violinist, will be playing with the All-State Symphony Orchestra. Augustine Park, a violinist, was also selected to this year's All-State Symphony Orchestra. Giselle Reskina is a cellist who was selected as an alternate for the All-State Orchestra. Nicholas Sayage, a bass, was selected to sing with the All-State Mixed Chorus. Oscar Shabayev plays the tenor saxophone and will be in the All-State 2020 Symphonic Band. Nicholas Thomas, a tenor, was selected for the All-State Mixed Chorus. Austin C. was selected to play timpani this year in the All-State Wind Ensemble. Michelle Yang is a cellist who was selected as an alternate to this year's All-State Orchestra. And Joshua Yoon is a cellist who was also selected as an alternate to the All-State Orchestra. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, these students will be rehearsing and performing virtually with students from around New York State and NISMA has arranged for what promises to be a spectacular virtual all-state concert. Congratulations to our all-state musicians, and thank you for the opportunity to recognize them.
The arts are still alive and well, and the pandemic has not dampened our spirits. If anything, it's caused us to find even more ways to be creative, and what a better way to be creative than in the arts. So we're very proud of these young people, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the final product looks like as they work together across the state to put something together. So not only are the arts alive and well in Syosset, but the science curriculum is alive and well. And one of the questions we got over the summer was, how on earth are we going to do labs, science labs, in the pandemic if we're back in the school environment? And the answer is, there's plenty of ways to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the progress we've made in our science program, already a rich program, made even better, and the ways that we're addressing science instruction, notwithstanding the challenges of the COVID pandemic. So I'm going to introduce our science coordinator, Mr. Ray Laverso.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and members of the administration. We are very happy to present to you this evening. Our district mission calls upon us to prepare students to thrive in both the future we imagine and one in which may evolve in ways that we've yet to envision. Well, I was originally scheduled to present to you in March. As we all know, the world has changed a great deal since then. In essence, we all have the lived experience of preparing for a future that we've yet to envision. Whatever that future holds, science is uniquely postured to equip our students with the skills and the practices that they need to thrive. So as we've done work to accomplish this vision and to achieve our district goals, we've strategically supported our teachers and our students in a number of ways. First, we've realigned our science curriculum to the next generation science standards. Our focus has been on phenomenon-based teaching and three-dimensional learning. We started in our elementary schools. We've also deepened our professional learning and engaged with our peers across the region. We have a new STEM specialist that works in all of our elementary schools, and you'll be hearing from Barbara in a moment. We've enhanced our facilities. When I first arrived in Syosset, I met with the Board of Education, and we toured the science labs and mutually agreed that we needed facilities that better supported the work of our talented students. I'm looking forward to showing you how these enhancements have had an impact on our students. And lastly, we've remained laser focused on an instructional ramp that aligns our curriculum K-12. So this evening, I'm excited to present a window into science education at all levels. We're gonna show you how we're working to prepare our students for the future that we've yet to envision. But before doing so, I want to set the table, so to speak, and provide some background regarding the new science standards. When we say that we're teaching science in 3 dimensions, this is what we mean. There are 3 dimensions that we address in our science instruction: the science and engineering practices, the disciplinary core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts. So if you think of science as a meal, or science instruction as a meal, the science and engineering practices would be the tools you're using in the kitchen. The core ideas are the ingredients. Turkey is still turkey, cells are still cells. And lastly, there are cross-cutting concepts, which are like the seasoning we use to flavor meals, and you could use them differently to achieve a different flavor profile. We use cross-cutting concepts to connect science disciplines, but we also use them to take an interdisciplinary approach to problem solving. There's no one discipline that can adequately address the challenges of the future. Science alone cannot address the challenges of a record-breaking hurricane season. Although research and science is largely seen at the forefront of defeating the current pandemic, we know from experience that there's no one discipline approach that solves all the problems created by the novel coronavirus. Our students will need to draw upon skills and practices that they learned in ELA, math, social studies, and science. Over the next few minutes, we will show you some examples of how our students practice this type of problem solving, where they have authentic opportunities to engage in process-oriented work of scientists and engineers. We're going to begin our journey in elementary schools. Last year, we had the opportunity to make our STEM specialist a full-time position. Ms. Barbara Fournier serves in this role. Over the past year, Ms. Fournier has worked with our teachers and our elementary school students to deepen our work in science. She has done model lessons with teachers, supported our curriculum modifications this past summer, and has addressed the 3 dimensions of science through phenomenon-based teaching. This allows our students to engage in the actual work of scientists and engineers. It's my pleasure to introduce our STEM specialist, Ms. Barbara Fournier.
Good evening. Administrators, trustees of the Board of Education, thank you so much for inviting me here tonight to talk to you about some of the exciting things going on in K-5 Syosset science. I've been doing pretty exciting work with all of our elementary schools using phenomenon-based learning. We use phenomenon to engage students and make them curious about the world around them. Students think it's just cool. There are many great examples of phenomenon-based learning in all of our grades. The one I'm going to focus on tonight is from 3rd grade. Our 3rd graders are studying forces and interaction through the engineering phenomenon of bridges. This unit was modified from our regular forces unit from our Carolina curriculum to adjust to the COVID world. The challenge of getting to the other side turns out to be a pretty complex problem that students attempted to solve in this unit. For our 3rd graders, this involved first learning about balanced and unbalanced forces through research, exploration, building, and testing. First, they built 1-story structures to investigate how the structure responded when weights were added to them. I think they used index cards. Then they built 2-story structures to withstand the force of the air particles of the wind, and we used a hairdryer for that. They also learned about the engineering design process, which involves defining a problem, how do I get my car across this body of water, planning and sketching out their designs, deciding on the best materials to use for their bridge, and then building and testing their designs, and really most importantly, revising their designs after they see what doesn't work. This is a really rich process for students that builds creative thinking, problem solving, and perseverance, and it's really fun. The video we have for you tonight shows Walt Whitman 3rd grade students building and testing their bridge designs, and we hope you agree that their creativity and ingenuity, as well as their joy of learning, shines through. So, next slide. Oops.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and
So no real-world problem can be solved using just one subject alone. And through this process, students are researching, measuring how much weight their bridges hold, and they're writing. Students are writing to reflect the merits of their design and to convey complex ideas, information clearly and accurately. This aligns perfectly with our math and ELA standards. So learning forces through bridges allowed students to learn and brainstorm collaboratively, yet build independently. I appreciate the opportunity to represent our great work our elementary schools are doing in science, and I look forward to sharing some more exciting projects with you in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fournier. The third grade team at Walt Whitman made that video for us, and I want to thank them for that. I don't know about you, but that song has been in my head all day. I was humming it online at Dunkin' Donuts. I'd like to introduce now Krista Hatchadorian from HBT. She's a middle school teacher, and Ms. Hatchadorian's not here with us this evening, but she's made a video that showcases the incredible work taking place in our middle schools. Here again, our students are engaged in tasks that require them to draw upon skills that they learn in a variety of content areas. They're using ELA, math, and science as they tackle different challenges. You'll notice the first part of the video, students are working last year before we went virtual. The second half shows how our students are doing science this year and adjusting to the challenges in the COVID world.
Good evening, everyone. I am Krista Hatchadorian, one of the 7th grade science teachers at HBT. Unfortunately, I could not be with you this evening, but I did not want to miss the opportunity to share some of the great things that our students have been doing. I would like to start by asking everyone to take a moment and think back to middle school science. What do you remember? Chalkboards full of notes? A teacher lecturing as you write copious notes in your binder? Rows of desks with lab stations around the perimeter? Maybe you remember your lab partner and the labs with a series of steps to follow and questions to answer. These are the vivid memories I still hold to this day, and I am sure there are many of you who do as well. Now let's walk into a 7th grade science class at HBT. Upon entering the room, you will see groups of students at various stations around the room. They are collaborating with each other, gathering data, drawing models on whiteboards, sharing their findings with the class, or perhaps using their phones to capture a phenomena in slow motion. This is the science class of today. These are the experiences that are guiding our students to not only become better learners today, but to prepare them for their future filled with limitless opportunities. Our students of today are our future innovators, thinkers, and change makers, and the duty falls on us to provide them with the skills they will need to reach their true potential. As a part of our ongoing shift to the NGSS standards, we are asking our students to be the creators of knowledge rather than just consumers of facts. In the classrooms we remember, our teachers would bestow facts upon us, and we were then asked to memorize this information and one day repeat it for a test. Our students today can gather this same information through a Google search or by simply asking Alexa or Siri. Success today is not marked by what you know, but rather how you use it. These new standards are shifting the focus towards why things happen and how this affects the world around us. So now, rather than reading a textbook and memorizing facts, they are using phenomena and hands-on experiences. These experiences are then used to create models that would help them make sense of the world around them and explain what it is they see and don't see. From this, we are building within them the skills that cross-cut through disciplines, skills such as problem solving, collaboration, and communication. By now, you may be asking yourself, but how is this happening? With all our precautions, how can our students possibly complete these activities? The answer to these questions is simple. Like our students, the science teachers must be innovative. Rather than toss in the towel and go back to antiquated teaching methods, we are iterating our methods to meet the constraints that we are met with. With social distancing and the use of technology, such as Google Meet breakout rooms, Jamboard, and others, we are moving forward in true Syosset fashion. This year marks my 24th year as a member of the Syosset educational community, and these changes that we are making are some of the most exciting and fulfilling that I have been a part of within the science department. I am proud of these changes we have embarked on, and even more so to be a teacher and role model for our future scientists and innovators. Thank you very much for your time, and have a nice evening.
There's a great deal of wonderful work occurring in our elementary schools and our middle schools. And this work is really the foundation of our instructional ramp to high school, college, and beyond. As I mentioned earlier, when I first met members of the Board of Education, we discussed science classrooms and our research labs. We agreed that they were antiquated and did not support the high level of work of our students. Your support has helped create a space for students that's really more like a college lab as opposed to a high school lab. We now have an even greater capacity to support students with our new facilities. The level of lab work our research students engage in is on par with what most students experience in their second or third year of college. The work is remarkable. You always hear from our research students at the end of a successful journey. And just to give you some context, the pandemic has changed the landscape of what students could actually do in science research at the high school level. Due to COVID, many of our students have had to reconsider their project focus and their goals. Tonight, I would like for you to hear from a student who had to change course in the middle of their journey and adapt to a future they definitely did not envision a year ago. The student is Giovanna Napoleon, and she's prepared a video that summarizes her journey for you.
Good afternoon. My name is Giovanna Napoleon, and I am a student of the Science Advanced Research Program at Syosset High School. In 11th grade, my original project focused on my interests in neurology. It involved incorporating an antioxidant called hydroxytyrosol within the food source of C. elegans, a microorganism, as a model for Parkinson's disease. However, as I finally completed my research plan and was able to go ahead with experimentation, New York City schools announced in early March that they would be closing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I admit this announcement frazzled me at first. I would no longer be able to perform my experiment that I spent an entire year planning on and looking forward to. However, through the amazing help of research teachers Dr. Hendrickson, Ms. LaRocca, and Mr. Allen, I was able to read up on all sorts of scientific literature and come up with a new project idea. Through my independent research, I came across an online public database called IVGAP, which provided tumor histological data on glioblastoma, or brain tumors, in human patients. Through noticing necrotic growth patterns presented in the images on the website, I decided to download them onto my laptop and analyze them using software such as ImageJ and FracLac that can be used on my computer in order to assess the growth patterns of necrosis. Through the amazing help of Ms. Aid and Ms. Levin over the summer and email correspondences and Google Meets, I am proud to say that I was able to complete my project by early September and become an STS applicant for the 2020 to 2021 school year on my project on prediction analysis of glioblastoma multiforme tumor spread through necrotic growth. I am so grateful for all the opportunities and support that I've gotten through the Science Advanced Research Program, and I hope to continue making scientific advancements in the future. Thank you.
Giovanna submitted her entry to STS last week. I've got a chance to see that, and it's really incredible. We're all very proud of her work. In addition to the renovations in the research lab, many of our classrooms were newly renovated as well. This has fostered even more collaboration and engagement as our students do the work of scientists. We've made significant shifts in instruction to address the new standards, but we've also made shifts to address the unique circumstances of this school year. As always, knowing the content is a bare minimum for us. learning how to use it as leverage and apply it in novel situations is the most important skill students get from a Syosset science course. When we began the school year, one of my colleagues shared a great quote with his staff. I thought it struck the right tone for us, and I decided to use it too. It was from Maya Angelou, and she said, "Do the best you can until you know better. When you know better, do better." We've all been so worried, wondering, even hoping that our best would be good enough. We wanted our best to be good enough to meet the level of excellence Syosset is known for. Well, let me assure you, it is better than good enough. The creativity of our teachers in all buildings, and the high school in particular, has been inspirational. I see classes every day where our students are actively collaborating, whether they're in person or virtual. Our teachers had systems for collaborative breakout rooms before Google released them in October. We're still doing labs. Some of them are hands-on, some of them are simulated, but we've learned to make all of them promote critical thinking and problem solving. Some of the best teaching I've seen in my career is taking place in our schools on a daily basis, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to represent that work this evening. It's been said that one of the best things about science is its ability to make the invisible become visible. And when you're working to prepare students for a future that we've yet to envision, you need to be able to make the invisible become visible. Our teachers do this every day. Their work allows students to see hidden relationships and patterns. And in the middle of one of the most extraordinary school years of our time, I've seen some of the best teaching in my career. When you see our students in action, it makes the joy of learning visible. I hope that we've made the excitement for science education in Syosset visible for you this evening. I want to really thank you for your continued support, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Laverso, and thank you to Ms. Fournier and Ms. Hatchdourian and everybody who worked so hard to put that together. I will take a moment and just reflect that this is a point of personal pride for me, both as a science major myself and seeing what a tremendous shift this has been for Syosset to really build on not just acquiring content, but applying content, moving beyond memorization, moving beyond procedural labs to experimental labs, and the idea that we have cross-cutting concepts like the design, plan, build, test, revise cycle that is not just applicable to a STEM project, but it's every bit as applicable to trying to write a new song or a poem or a piece of literature. You plan it, you build it, you test it, and you revise it. That's common to everything that we do. That's where excellence comes from. And so it's no surprise to me to hear a science teacher say she's so proud of the work that she's doing, because I think we all recognize that this has really taken it to the next level. And so, Mr. Laverso, your leadership in that is to be commended, because it really has taken an exceptional program and made it even better. So thank you for that. With that said, I don't know, were you planning on commenting, Ms. Frankel?
As I saw your green light on, and so I didn't want to step in, but just it was a very impressive presentation. What a daunting task it must have been in the beginning, especially in March, to try and figure out how you were going to engage kids virtually, and then some virtually and some in class. And by the looks of it, the kids are really enjoying themselves, and just give you and your staff a ton of credit for making that happen. Science is exciting and innovative, and to be able to innovate the teaching methods on the fly is just very, very impressive. So thanks.
All right, and Farquhar, now we'll do my presentation. Sorry. Thank you, and I'll take the next slide, please. So I want to give you a little bit of a reopening update on where we stand. As we said at the beginning of the year, we would replace where possible in all of our air handling units the filters that were in place with MERV 13 filters. That process is nearly complete. There were obviously shipping delays because we were not the only entity that was looking to try and upgrade our filters to this standard, but as they've come in, they've been installed, and my understanding is that there's a round of filters being installed even this week. With the ventilation project, we've been in frequent contact with the State Education Department. We've gotten some information from them on how they'd like to see the project presented to them. That way of presenting it, we have to get the State Education Department's approval. They have suggested a path that will streamline their approval, but it does require us to invest more time up front in getting the project to them. That unfortunately is going to delay when we can get the project started. So our plan B as a bridge is going to be to purchase HEPA filters for the classrooms that don't have mechanical ventilation other than the use of windows. So those filters should be here shortly, and we'll start putting them into rooms that don't otherwise have mechanical ventilation. And then obviously we will still work as quickly as we can to get the ventilation, the actual mechanical ventilation in place. So in terms of the return to the classroom, we have opened the portal for parents to who are currently have children who are studying 100% virtually. If they want to come back to the in-person environment as part of our reopening plan this summer, we said that we would let elementary students come back after the first trimester, let secondary students come back after the first quarter, not really knowing what this fall would look like or how many people would opt for one option or the other. We just knew that we would have to have some sort of a point in time where we would give people the opportunity and then see what happens. And see what happens is a lot of what we've been doing this year. So the good news is at the secondary level, we will have no difficulty accommodating all of the students who want to come back there. We had always said that this would be on a space available basis. There's obviously limitations to the space because we're trying to maintain social distance in the classrooms. But the good news is at the secondary level, we should be able to accommodate everyone. At the elementary level, we're close to being able to accommodate everyone. We don't have to make assignments yet because the first trimester is not over. We did the survey early, and we are still seeing some attrition from the in-person environment to the virtual environment. That frees up space for virtual students who wish to return. And right now, we believe that there are 6 grades at the elementary level, kindergarten through 5, and then there are 7 buildings, so that creates 42 different grade levels at the various buildings. And we believe that all but 6 of those 42 grade levels will have room to accommodate the students who want to return to the in-person environment. So that obviously leaves the remaining 6 that are a challenge and about 20 students that we're going to have to figure out about, I guess it's more like, about 20 students that we have to accommodate. So we've been talking to the building principals about that. There are some creative ideas out there that we need to explore a little bit further. Again, we do have time, and there is still ongoing attrition, so it may work out more easily. If not, we'll probably have to entertain something like a lottery system in order to be able to allocate the space that we do have as fairly as possible. And then the last bullet point on there is addressing rumors. And over the course of the last week, we fielded rumors that all of the superintendents had met with one another and made a decision. All of the superintendents had met with the county executive and made a decision. All of the superintendents had met with the governor and made a decision. And my secretary actually poked her head in my office and said, "Did you meet with the governor this weekend?" And I said, "I couldn't possibly, I'm far too busy." So I hope the governor never watches this. So my point is none of those things happened. Obviously, superintendents are in touch with one another constantly. That's part of how we do our jobs even in a normal year, and this is anything but a normal year. And so we're all trying to learn from one another, but we're not making collective decisions together. So in the presentation, if I could have the next slide, I can talk a little bit about some of what is going on and how I believe the state is going to be approaching the difficulty as we're now seeing cases go up. So New York City, as I'm sure you read in the papers, the mayor back in the summer had set sort of a standard for the city of 3%. If the positivity rate went over 3%, he was going to consider closing schools and going virtual again. That was a bold prediction very early on, and it's kind of constrained some of their ability to do some decision making. The state, by contrast, has come up with more recently something they're calling a microcluster strategy. They're identifying pockets where the positivity rate has gone up sharply. They're identifying the localized reasons for why that positivity rate is going up, and they're doing closures, but those closures are focused in either a yellow zone or a red zone, orange zone, so that they're not having such dramatic impact on the economy, but they're really focusing on the places where it appears that community transmission is occurring. So it's a complicated formula. It's not just when you hit 3%, you close. It's 3 layers. The yellow zone, obviously the least intrusive, orange zone, and red zone. And so if there is a positivity rate over 2.5% on a 7-day running average for 10 days, then that's the first criteria that would be necessary to get into a yellow zone. If that positivity rate was over 3%, orange zone, and 4% red zone. If you do hit the orange or red zones, schools are not permitted to be open for live instruction. It would have to be all virtual instruction. But that positivity rate is not the only metric. So there also has to be 10 cases of COVID on a daily average basis per 100,000 residents. And then there are a series of other criteria. For each zip code, you have to have more than 5 cases per day. For zip codes that have more than 10,000 people, more than 3 cases per day. For zip codes that have less than 10,000 people, et cetera. So not all of this data is readily available to us. We can see county level positivity data. We can see zip code level case data, but not testing data, so we don't know the percentage of tests that are positive. So we're a little bit in the dark in terms of knowing where we are, but the overall numbers are such that it doesn't appear that we're going to be in a yellow zone immediately, but obviously cases have been going up sharply in the last week or so, and that certainly is worrisome because they can't go up indefinitely without us going into a yellow or an orange or a red zone. If I could have the next slide, please. So these are the data. This is Nassau County's data. They do provide the positivity rate by county. And you can see that the county has entered into the yellow zone in terms of the positivity rate, but not any of the other metrics yet. If it were to go up from here some more, that would be the orange zone. And the blue line is, from day to day, there's a lot of noise. The orange line is the rolling average for the county, but it has gone up very sharply in the last week and a half. Next slide, please. And then this is the number of cases per 100,000. So this again has crossed over the metric line, but the state has not designated any yellow zones on Long Island yet. So the state does have these microclusters on a map that is on the state's website, and there are clusters in Portchester, Westchester County. There's one in Orange County. There's one in Broome County, Tioga County, Erie County. They are scattered throughout the state, but so far there are none on Long Island. But obviously, these are worrisome trends. On this chart, the top line is the county's rate of increase of cases, and the bottom line is Syosset's rate of increase of cases. And so what you can see is that for much of the summer and fall, we have been well below the county on a once you adjust for the size of our population here in Syosset. But these last few days, this last week or so, our rate of increase is steeper than the county's rate of increase, and the county's rate of increase is concerningly steep. So for us to be steeper is ever more concerning. And this is why we need to have a family conversation so that we can all work together to try and wrestle that curve back to the ground. Next slide, please. So some other data points to think about, and I take pride, and I thank Ms. Frankel for her compliments to all the administration for the work that we've done to reopen schools. And it is very fortunate that we have not yet seen any cases of transmission that are occurring in school. And it's also fortunate that our own internal contact tracing work in cooperation with the Department of Health has allowed us to move very quickly so that we can ascertain what we need to know in order to make decisions about school the next day, so that, again, we preserve as much in-person instruction as we possibly can. There's a whole team of people that works very hard when we learn of a case, but it's going to become more challenging as time goes on. So, and the point I want to make is that just because we've moved quickly, just because we have not had to have a lot of closures, does not mean that all is well. There have been, every school district that closes a school is required to report that, so it's easy to track the data. Since the 8th of October, there have been over 120 school closures in Nassau County of varying lengths. So there are a tremendous number of closures. I probably get 3 or 4 of these emails daily. The good news is that we have 17 cases that are more than 14 days old, and for every one of those cases, we have not seen any further transmission through the school environment. Again, it's reassuring because it means that their procedures so far have held up, but it's not an invitation for us to take more risks. It means that we're just on the right side of the risk line, at least for now. Since the start of school, there have been over 150 people that have been in some form of quarantine, even if the contact was not a school-based contact, it was a family-based contact, or as a party-based contact, or as a sports-based contact. There has been a lot of people who have been in proximity of COVID. And again, these are not our data to report, but we do follow it because we need to know who's not permitted in school yet so that we can make sure they come back on the right day. And we are tracking all of these individuals as well. And the point again is just because we're able to open school the next day does not mean that there isn't a significant impact from COVID. There's a lot going on and we're trying to track all of it. And then the last point is in the summer and early fall, we were seeing numbers of new cases on a daily basis for the county as a whole in the 60, 70, 80 cases a day range. The last several days, it has been in the 300 and 400 cases per day range. And so our ability to work quickly with the Department of Health is going to become more challenging, not because they are less inclined to work with us. Our relationship with them has been extraordinary, and they have been magnificent to work with. So professional, so thoughtful, so on top of it. But it's clear that the strain of having 400 new cases a day feeding into their contact tracing department it's going to have an impact on our ability to move quickly. So I do feel like we're entering a different phase. The last 2 weeks have felt very different from the first 2 months of school. And we're obviously watching things closely, but we're going to need as a community to make some shifts and adjustments. And then just wanted to point out, we do keep track of a dashboard on our website. It's updated daily with any new cases that we have. The nice thing, as I mentioned, is that we illustrate which cases are resolved, obviously not by name because of privacy considerations, but it does let the community know that we're tracking when these cases go past the 14 days so that we can see if there was any further transmission in the school environment. And if not, well, we kind of close those cases and we can focus our attention on the cases that are a little newer, a little fresher, and obviously we're watching closely to make sure that there's no further transmission from those cases as well. And with all of these and all of the plans that we've put together, the goal was, because we know that there are people who may have the disease but are asymptomatic, you may never know who is infected, and so the procedures that we have in place, from the masks to the distance to the barriers, are designed to keep people protected even if somebody were in our midst and had the disease or is pre-symptomatic and becomes sick a couple days later. So our hope is to be able to keep doing what we're doing. It appears to be holding up well. Obviously, it's going to go through the biggest test that it could possibly have over the course of the next several weeks. But I do, with this microcluster strategy in other parts of the state that have made it into yellow and even orange zones, they have been able to turn it around. So we're not in a yellow zone or an orange zone yet, and so turning it around should be easier for us than it was for these other parts of the state that had an even bigger job to wrestle it down. So I do think we can do it, but it's going to take everyone's attention and everyone's dedication. So to that point, just a couple more things, not on reopening, but on more of the operation of the school district. On the agenda tonight is an agreement with South Nassau Mount Sinai Hospital. If the school does go into the yellow zone, they're required to test 20% of the students and staff every 2 weeks for COVID. And in order to do that, you need some sort of testing capacity. So we are in the process now of building that capacity. It will be here on this campus, and we'll have availability through South Nassau, should the board approve this resolution this evening, to provide testing on site. It will be a convenience on the one hand, and if we're in a position where we have to do testing, we will already have that capacity up and running and in place. And we have been approaching this and exploring a partnership with the Jericho School District. Their Board of Education does not meet until later this week, and so I certainly don't want to speak for them, but we've invited them to join with us in this partnership, and if they so choose, they'll be welcome partners of ours, and we'll know about that later in the week. And then lastly, I just wanted to update the board on the Amazon project that is going in the former Ciro Wire site. We did meet, as we said we would at the last meeting, with the developers. They gave us what seemed largely to be the same presentation they made to the Nassau IDA. We got a fairly comprehensive understanding of what the site plan looks like, what their intended uses for the property are, and we identified, unsurprisingly, the same things that we identified a couple of years ago with the Syosset Park project. Worries about traffic, worries about construction, dust, noise, etc., worries about how the property would be remediated, and questions about what the process looks like from here in terms of the remediation plan, the community air monitoring plan, the construction plan, the dust mitigation plan, etc. So we don't have answers to a lot of those things. We've foiled the town for a number of the documents that are in Amazon's submission, and we are sharing those. We got one site plan, so we've shared that with our environmental consultant. We're waiting for a comprehensive report from her, and our intention is to do for the board what we did for you 2 years ago in 2018, which is to do a comprehensive review of any documents that were afforded the opportunity to look at. And then finally, they have applied for they've gone before the Nassau IDA to apply for a tax abatement. That's something the board wrote a letter to the IDA about back in the summer. And we don't have any information other than looking for an abatement on what exactly that might look like. But we are obviously trying to follow it as closely as we can with the documents that are publicly available. And so just making sure in my notes I haven't missed anything. No, that concludes my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Do any of our board members have questions about the superintendent's report? Chris DeFilippo.
Yeah, Dr. Rogers, on the testing, are these the antigen, the COVID-19 antigen test that will be, you're thinking of doing on the site?
Yes, they are COVID antigen tests. It's a rapid test. There is a new test in the pipeline that is probably going to be available in December. It'll be a less expensive test and will also require less equipment in order to read the results. So we're going to go with the test that's available right now as we stand up the testing site, and then we're going to convert to the new test in December when the test becomes available. And South Nassau did indicate that they have an order placed for that, and so they're anticipating they'll have some availability.
Okay. The state is offering on their website, and I confirmed with them, free testing kits, the COVID-19 rapid test, and they also talk about schools can become approved to do testing using a waived test if it becomes registered as a limited service laboratory, LSL. Is that something that we're taking advantage of rather than buying these tests? And if we do have to buy the tests, are they being covered by the members' health insurance?
Yeah, we're not buying any tests. This will be a community testing site of the South Nassau Hospital that will be on our campus. So the convenience will be that it's on our campus. Our relationship with South Nassau already is that they furnish us with the school physician, so this will be an additional service through them. The testing will work the same as it would at a rapid testing, an urgent care center, where you would go in, if you had insurance, the test would be made available to you, the billing would go through South Nassau. My understanding of the tests that are being offered through New York State is that is for schools that are in yellow zones and need testing kits in order to be able to get to the 20%. Given the size of our students and staff, we would have to have probably 1,600 kits every 2 weeks in order to meet that need. So if it were that we were to become a yellow zone school, I think we would need to supplement our testing ability with the tests that the state has. But my understanding is that those tests are reserved first for schools that are in the yellow zones. We did look into becoming a limited service laboratory at the beginning of the school year. Where we are now with South Nassau was our fallback plan, which I think is actually a better plan than our original idea, which was to become a limited service laboratory. There are a number of requirements to become an LSL that we couldn't meet about having to have extremely cold storage, having to have certain types of people with qualifications on site. And it looked to me like the kinds of school districts that might be able to get LSL designations would have to be very large urban districts or districts that had healthcare. There are some districts that have healthcare providers on site that do medical and dental screenings for students right there. They probably would be better positioned to do it, but it looked to me like it'd be very costly to try and stand up all the capacity we would need to have an LSL here, unless the state has changed the rules since the beginning of the year. But by using South Nassau, we take advantage of their testing license without having to go and acquire one of our own. So in some ways, it's easier to buy this license through them than it is to try and invent one for ourselves.
And Dr. Rogers, I just have one last question on the COVID. I heard some updates with the vaccine. They're already designing that the vaccine is free, that there will be a copay or a small administrative fee if people don't have insurance. So that's, the reports out there are very high percentage of success, and if that comes about, whenever it does in the next few months, hopefully, I guess the school district needs to recalibrate to determine if students get vaccinated and how that may impact.
Well, I will say at a personal and professional level, I'm very excited about the news of the last 2 weeks and 2 different manufacturers that are reporting really encouraging results for vaccines. I think the next question will be how quickly they can get approvals, and then from there, how quickly they can manufacture large numbers of doses, and then lastly, where and how those doses will be allocated among the population. So it may not affect us in the current school year. I don't have a good sense of how long it will take for all 3 of those steps to take place. But the one thing that I have learned since March is that every week appears to be a new challenge to learn how to fix. And I think we will probably cross that bridge as it comes to us, and it will require us to be nimble as it comes along. But I share your optimism and enthusiasm.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Rogers in the superintendent's report? Tom Rotolo.
Thank you, Tracy. And I'd like to reiterate what you had said before, that as a resident and as a school board member, I'm very grateful for Dr. Rogers, the administration, the principals, the teachers, the security guards, the lunch aides, the IT staff, the custodial staff, everybody who has made this possible. This is not business as usual. I just want to stress that, and I want to thank also the students enduring all this and the parents making this happen. I know it's been very difficult on everybody. So I just want to, I just don't want that to go unnoticed. We are pushing forward, and this is a very difficult time. And I appreciate the testing. I know, again, we're leaders in that, like we were with pushing on the online education before everybody else. So I just want to point that out. With the testing, I know we've had some with returning students to school with the rapid tests that came out negative, but then in turn were positive after they were sent to the lab. So any change on that to try to get the PCR test to return back to school?
So the PCR test is the most accurate test that is available right now, but the turnaround time is between 5 and 10 days to get results back. So the state requires, the return to school protocol is in something called the toolkit, the New York State toolkit. And the toolkit explicitly states that you can accept either the PCR test or a rapid test, an antigen test. So the advantage of the antigen test is it's very quick. The disadvantage is that you do get some false negatives. So the point I made earlier about having designed our school environment so that even if there was someone unknowingly in the school environment who was positive, we still have 3 layers of protection in place: the mask, the distance, the barriers. Whether that person is in school and positive because they're just simply asymptomatic, or whether that person is in school and positive because they're asymptomatic and the first test that they got didn't show, it's kind of the same thing. So I don't know that we would gain any additional protection from requiring a PCR test, because we'll still have if somebody has symptoms, they shouldn't be in school. And even if you get a rapid test and you still have symptoms, even if the rapid test is negative, you shouldn't be in school. If you're sick, stay home. If you're sick, stay home. But I don't know that we will gain any additional. I think we'll force kids out of the in-person environment, possibly unnecessarily, without gaining any safety in compensation for that.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Rogers? Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. We will begin audience to the public today. If you have any questions or comments for the board, please come and to the register and identify your name and your address for the board. You must be a Syosset resident to speak. You'll have an initial 4 minutes in which you can ask questions, but you cannot poll board members on individual opinions. We'll do our best to answer questions at the end of that first round of 4 minutes when everyone has asked their questions, and then if anyone wants a follow-up in a second round of 4 minutes, you can have that, and we'll answer those questions at the end of that round as well. We don't talk about personnel matters, and we don't talk about individual students for privacy reasons, so please respect that. And additionally, we never speak from the audience. It's just not allowed. Safety is paramount here. So with that, if anyone has any questions or comments for the board, please come up to the podium. Going once? Twice? Okay, that closes audience to the public today. For discussion items, many members of the Board of Education attended the New York State School Boards Association conference. We did this virtually, and I invite any board member who has a favorite seminar that they attended to share that with the board and the community. Anna?
At the convention this year, I listened in on an engaging conversation with the State Education Department represented by the Interim Commissioner Betty Rosa and the Region Vice Chancellor T. Andrew Brown, who provided a statewide view from the State Education Department perspective of the key educational issues facing school districts and the Department of Education during these unprecedented times, including new financial and state aid challenges, inequities, alternate graduation measures, and digital divide, which became even more apparent during the pandemic. While verbalizing the new challenges associated with navigating through these uncharted waters, both speakers pointed out how all stakeholders, including state legislature, are committed to working together to make sure public education in our state remains intact and accessible to all children regardless of their zip code and socioeconomic status. A special emphasis was made on making sure our students are not only prepared for furthering their education or entering a workforce upon graduation, but also becoming good citizens and contributors to our society. In her closing statement, Commissioner Rosa expressed her sincere hope that as social human beings, once we're through this pandemic, we remain connected, compassionate, and kind, and our children learn the same. I must say, from my personal perspective, listening to all the new concerns during these unprecedented times, I once again felt extremely fortunate to be a Syosset parent of school-age children receiving quality education despite the rapidly changing educational format and remaining uncertainties. I must say our kids are really lucky, and we're lucky to be here thanks to, as Tom said, everyone who made it impossible possible, really. Kudos to the teachers especially, and everyone involved.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Anna. Are there any other board members that would like to share? Carol Chang.
Okay, the workshop that I would like to share with everyone is bullying and students with disabilities. Bullying has created a national public health problem, such as mental health and suicide. Research has shown long-term impact and effect on students. Bullying has a marked impact on student engagement and attendance. Students with disabilities may not understand the extent to which bullying behavior is harmful or may be socially pressured to stay silent. Responsibilities of districts to address bullying include send a clear message of anti-bullying from the outset, foster a positive and engaging school climate, develop and implement policies, investigate any reports of bullying, as well as take both proactive and reactive measures. In Syosset, we put in tremendous efforts in addressing bullying, and we encourage students and parents to reach out. And I find this very, especially during the pandemic, this is something that the district has taken a lot of measure on, and then we do encourage parents to reach out and speak up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Krista Filippo?
Thank you, Tracy. As you know, I was the delegate for the board. The meeting, I don't know, was about 5 hours. It was, very interesting to go through all the resolutions and hear all the different conversations from the other school districts, and then last minute change. Some of them were articulated better, and then as a group we voted on it, and that went very well. I just thought overall, whereas there was a lot of very good points doing it virtually, I would welcome back being in person in the conference to have an interaction with people, either in the exhibits or in the different workshops. And I think that's where the trustees really get to the feel of how other schools operate and work. But, and they didn't give a break. You had to take your own break, but, you got to use your own judgment, right? But I thought, overall it was good, given the situation we're in. It was better to have it than not have it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chris. To your point, I do agree with you that there's something about being at a conference live that increases the impact that other districts have on each other. And I remember a few years ago going on a lunch break to a restaurant, and I sat down next to two board members from a very small school district. And we were talking about some of the more, I guess, progressive policies that were going on in New York State. And their school district, when I say small, I mean like 100 or so kids in the district small. And the conversation that we had was really incredible, from where they stood at the beginning of the conversation on these policies to where they stood at the end of that conversation. And I think, they impacted me as much as I impacted them during that brief time. And so we certainly miss out on those experiences when it's not live, but grateful for NYSSBA for putting it together and making the seminars available to all of us, because we certainly learn a lot from attending these things. Okay, with that, we'll go on to the next discussion item. BOCES has a budget review committee every year, and the districts that are within BOCES are allowed up to 2 school board members to attend. I believe that there are 3 meetings, one in December, one in January. I don't recall when the third date is, but if we could have 1 or 2 volunteers to attend those meetings and then report back to the board. Eventually, we all vote on the BOCES budget, and so it's always important to be informed. Are there any takers? Carol Chang and Anna Levitan, thank you so much. And feel free to, coordinate with the dates so you don't have to all go to every single one, but if one date works for you, that would be amazing. So appreciate that. Fran, if you could note that Anna Levitan and Carol Chang will attend, and then let BOCES know. Thank you. Okay, there's no unfinished business, so we will begin A items. A1 is the approval of staff changes for certified staff. May I have a motion? Krista Filippo, seconded by Carol Chang. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A2 is the approval of 2020-2021 stipends and hourly rate. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Gershon, seconded by Mr. Feldman. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A3 is the appointment of interim executive director of human resources, revised. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falco, seconded by Mr. Rotolo. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, A4 we did at the top of the meeting, but we can always give another congratulations because that's exciting. So congratulations again to Ed Escobar. A5 is the ratification of stipulation of agreement with the STA. May I have a motion, please? Krista Filippo, seconded by Susan Falcove. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A6 is the appointment of a per diem substitute principal, revised. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Chang, seconded by Mr. Rotolo. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B items. B1 is the approval of recommendations from the Committee on Special Education. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B2 is the approval of recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education. May I have a motion, please? Mr. DiFilippo, seconded by Ms. Falcove. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B3 is the appointment of attendance officer and Title IX coordinator. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Chang, seconded by Mr. Rotolo. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B4 is the appointment of residency officer, attendance officer, and Title IX coordinator. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Mr. Gershon. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B5 is the approval of student club charters 2020-2021. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falco, seconded by Mr. DiFilippo. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B6 is the first reading of policies, school district records, parent and family engagement, board members, school district officers, and employee code of ethics, student attendance, student wellness, student records, and the code of character, conduct, and support. May I have a motion? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? Okay, this will be voted on at the December 14th, 2020 meeting. C1 is the authorization for service contracts. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falcove, seconded by Ms. Chang. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C2 is the authorization for special education and or nursing contracts. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C3 is the authorization for contracts for federal Part B funds. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falcove, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C4 is the authorization for use of reserve funds. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Feldman, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I have a few questions. Is this going forward? Maybe I should read all the questions and then you can answer. So is this the request going forward? Because I think we approved the other use of reserve funds on October 8th. So is this new expenditure? And what's the purpose of this? And do we know what we've spent year to date per student on COVID-related expenses?
The reserve fund that we talked about on October 8th was the capital reserve. And there are monies there were $5 million put into that at the end of last year. That was funded from monies that were unexpended last year, partially because of the COVID-related closure, and that money has been allocated towards the ventilation project. What this item does is it allows the school district to temporarily use reserve funds to cover a short-term cash flow shortfall. So there are two ways that we can cover this cash flow shortfall. One is to borrow in the marketplace or to borrow from ourselves. So this was actually something 5 years ago Mr. Gang suggested that we do. He noticed that we were doing short-term borrowing to cover expenses, and he suggested that we borrow from ourselves since we have reserves. The law didn't allow it at that time, but the law was changed this year because of COVID to allow this and other purposes. But this is not going to be an expenditure from the reserves. This will just be short-term borrowing from the reserves, and then we pay the reserves back immediately. And we're not sure we'll even need this authority, and if we do, we will only need it for a matter of maybe a week or two. But the savings to the district of not having to do the closing costs of a borrowing, it's called a tax anticipation note, a TAN, will save us quite a bit of money. So this really does make a lot of sense for us to do.
Are there any other questions on C4?
So, Dr. Rogers, that's with the anticipation that we could. I could understand it's borrowing it temporarily. It has to be. The intent is to replace it. I think the guidelines. It's unlike the other one where there was a specific purpose to that reserve and it was used. So, would you would still need board approval, right? This just facilitates it, or what's the the framework around the approval process? Using it is one thing, but do you still get a motion to approve if you needed to use that for something, right?
Well, this motion is the authorization to allow us to use these reserve funds to cover this short-term cash flow issue. As you know, we receive funds from the county for property taxes. They collect the property taxes on our behalf, but the county has been offering delays in collection in order to help homeowners. And so those delays in collection are resulting in delays in sharing those monies with us. And so to cover that timing gap, we absolutely anticipate that the county is going to furnish us with those funds. They're just not going to give them to us as timely as they ordinarily would. And so this is not an expenditure against budget. This is just replacing the revenue that's necessary until the county furnishes the funds that we anticipate from them. So this is just covering the cash flow need that we have in the short term. You're welcome.
Mr. Rotolo?
So to piggyback, Christy Filippo, then once those funds come in, because this is a timing difference, then do we reimburse the fund and replenish it?
Yes, 100%. So whatever we use to cover this short-term cash flow shortfall will all be replenished to the reserve as soon as the funds come in from the county. And the way the law is written, we have to replenish it with whatever interest we would estimate would have been earned on the funds. But again, the period of time, it's probably just a matter of 1 or 2 weeks, is going to be so short that's probably not much money. But just for sake of the board, I just want you to know that we do have to repay it, quote, with interest. Just I can't imagine it's going to be very much.
Okay, all in favor of C4? Opposed? Any abstentions? C5 is the adoption of grants for the 2020-2021 school year revised. May I have a motion, please? Mr. DeFilippo, seconded by Mr. Gershon. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C6 and C7 can be taken together regarding an intermunicipal agreement. They are the approval of disclosure and consent agreement and approval of intermunicipal agreement. May I have a motion, please? Mr. DiFilippo, seconded by Mr. Feldman. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C8 is the disposal of broken, surplus, and/or obsolete equipment and books. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falco, seconded by Ms. Chang. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all for attending, and motion to adjourn.